this week we're going to dive into Ruth chapter 2 and talk about 5 principles that can help a man develop into the type of guy that a Christian wife will be really happy with. Point 1 comes from Ruth chapter 2, verse 1. Now Naomi had a relative of her husband's, a worthy man of the clan of Amalek, whose name was Boaz. Principle number 1 is that you have to become a respectable man before you even meet a woman that you hope respects you. A lot of guys make the mistake of dreaming about finding a woman, and then they create this fantasy in their mind where everything's going to make sense once they meet her. Basically, they're trying to make her the center of their life. She's going to be the mission once they meet her. And really, a woman does not want that. That's actually a big turnoff to a woman because internally she knows she's not enough to be a man's everything. She doesn't want to be the center of your story. Rather, she wants to find a man who has a story, who has something going on in his life, and then she wants to come alongside of that man to support him and join him in the journey that he's on. Notice the language Boaz used about Ruth in chapter 3, verse 11, and how closely it matches the description that we just read in Ruth chapter 2, verse 1 about Boaz. He said, "For all my fellow townsmen know that you are a worthy woman." Boaz was a worthy man before he met a worthy woman. If Boaz would have waited to try to get his life together after he met Ruth rather than before, it would have been too late. And likewise, as a man, if you really want to be respected and you want to attract that type of woman who wants that type of man, then again, you have to work on becoming respectable before you meet her and you want her to respect you. Point 2 comes from Ruth chapter 2, verses 2 through 7. And you can pause the screen right now if you want to read through that passage for yourself. Principle number 2 from this passage is that a godly man trusts God's providence to bring about his future wife and future marriage. So from everything we can tell about Boaz, he was the type of man who was trusting God's providence when it comes to his relationship status. From the details we know, he was single, he was older, he wasn't a passive man. We'll talk about that in a little bit. He was a very active man. He had a lot going for him. He was a wealthy man and could provide for a lot of people, as we'll talk about. But for whatever reason, he wasn't married. And then when Ruth came into his life and she let him know she was interested, he was very proactive. All that to say, we can infer that Boaz was waiting for something special to happen before he felt released to go pursue a wife. Notice the phrase in Ruth chapter 2, verse 3, "And she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz." Now, I'm not saying that it's wrong for men to do proactive things. Like if they feel led by God to try online dating or just go out there and pursue a woman rather than just waiting for her to randomly come into her life, his life, like this happened with Boaz and Ruth. That's not the point. I'm not saying that's wrong. Really what I'm talking about is a godly man is willing and ready to follow God's plan rather than his own gut, his own desires. He wants to know that he's truly following God's will for his life, whatever that may look like for him individually. And this is what a Christian woman wants. She doesn't just want a guy kind of making it up on the fly, doing his own thing. She wants to know that this man is actually trusting God's plan for his life and pursuing her because the man actually feels like this is a God thing, not just his own thing. Point 3 comes from Ruth chapter 2, verses 8 through 10. Principle number 3 for men is that you need to be very active when you sense God leading you to be active. What does get often lost in the story of Ruth is that Boaz was really the one who made the first move, because Ruth does kind of steal the show in Ruth chapter 3. She does something very proactive as a woman, and that kind of like takes all of our attention because that's not usually seen from women doing that. But again, if you notice what really happens, Boaz sees this woman in his field, and he's the one who goes over there, talks to her, provides for her, shows his character to her first, and she's like blown away by this act of kindness and favor. Additionally, once Ruth did take that wise step as a woman to be inviting towards Boaz in chapter 3, as you read further in chapter 3 and 4, Boaz then just takes it from there. He doesn't need Ruth to keep reassuring him, to keep inviting him. That's a big mistake a lot of guys make, is that they want a woman to invite them to pursue, which is good and biblical, and a woman should do that. But then they need more and more and more and constant reassurance. And that's a huge turnoff towards women. Once God does lead you to know that it's time to do something, be very strategic and very clear in your actions. Point 4 comes from Ruth chapter 2, verses 11 through 14. And principle number 4 is that you want to be able to treat all women with respect, regardless of whether you're romantically interested in them or not. As you read this passage, it's clear that Ruth was not the first woman that Boaz was taking care of in a way and helping out. This wasn't like he just saw her and then turned on the charm. Rather, this was Boaz's regular character. He was a pillar in the society. He was a good man. And there were other young women who were finding protection in his fields. His young men were disciplined enough to listen to him and to not sin against the other young women, which appears to be something that was commonly occurring in that time period, because everyone was like, Ruth, make sure you stay at Boaz's field, otherwise you're going to get abused at other places. Now, of course, once Boaz decided he wanted to pursue Ruth in a romantic way, he did single her out, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with treating a woman right in hopes that she likes you romantically. That's not a wrong thing to do. But the point here is that if you have character before you pursue her, and you're showing your character as a Christian man before you pursue her romantically, it's going to make your efforts towards her that much more genuine, because she knows you're not just a player and you're not just trying to put on a good show because you want her. Rather, this is the type of good man that you are, and this is coming out of your character. And point 5 comes from Ruth chapter 2, verses 17 through 23. Principle number 5 is that she will like you even more if you are able to impress those people that she loves. As a man, you don't want to come in and swoop in and try to steal her from the community that she's already living in. Rather, what you really want to do is come in and impress the community that she's living in, because this will help her feel confirmation. When she senses that you're a good man, and then the people that she respects are saying the same thing, that's going to be that double confirmation that she's looking for, to say, yeah, this is really a God thing, because I'm not just feeling it myself. The people I trust are also confirming that this is a good man. A thumbs up really helps this ministry, and it causes these videos to reach more people who also might need to see them. I'm Mark from ApplyGodsWord.com, and until next time, God bless.